Hey everyone, it's JT with Sidecar, and in this video we're going to be looking at making responsive card symbols using Sketch and AutoLayout from Anima. Alright, so we're taking a look at these cards in Sketch, and if you've ever tried to create a card symbol or any sort of symbol that has some responsive text where you've got 3 lines or 1 line or 2 lines, you've probably run into this problem where Sketch doesn't, the Sketch symbols don't give you the ability to set spacing between things and then have it be responsive depending on the content. And that's where AutoLayout comes in. And that's this little guy down here. You can go to animaapp.com, put in your email, and then you'll get the bundle of all of these because Anima releases all of them together. I have used these two, however, I've not really found them to be super useful in my workflow. I think that there's definitely a place for them, but mostly I've found a ton of value out of AutoLayout. So definitely pick that up, and this will just send you an email. You download that and you double click on the plugin and it'll automatically install it in Sketch. So let's take a look at how to actually create a symbol, and I'll try to showcase some of the problem that arises without AutoLayout. So I'll click into this guy and just kind of quickly walk you through some of the things that I'm doing because I've already set this up in such a way that when I create the symbol, it's going to be pretty quick, and that's just partly due to the fact that I've tried to create symbols in a lot of different ways, and I've just learned what's the best way to set that up. So let's take a look at this. So really quickly, just the folders. You've got the card here all together. I've got the featured image, which has a rectangle in it. And the rectangle is using a fill with an image. So I can choose an image, and I can also use craft here. So if I wanted to, for instance, put in someone's face, craft is a really great tool for that. I don't really want to get into that right now because I think that's a different topic, but mostly just kind of showcasing some of my workflow. So you have an image here, and that allows you to resize this without messing with the aspect ratio of the photo, and it'll also work great in the symbol as well. So I'll use that, and then I've also got some resizing happening. I'm going to wait though once we actually create the card to talk about all the aspects of the resizing. Then I have the content, which here is a category, the title, and the excerpt of the post. So I'll click into that. We've got here it says meta, the title, and the excerpt. And this folder structure is going to come in handy once we actually create AutoLayout, once we use it to set some of this padding. So you can see here I've got 8 pixels of padding between the category and the title, and then 16 pixels of padding between the title and the excerpt. And then the author here, I've got an avatar again using the same method, just choosing an image there. That little flower guy allows you to do a fill with an image. And I've got the height and the width fixed, and oops, this is supposed to be 40 pixels. There we go. Whew. Huge mistake. Okay, and then for the author, I've got this pulled out so that the entire group has the same padding. Wow, I am just all over the place. 40, 40, and then I want this to be, so 52. I'm gonna go ahead and set this to 40. Okay, so now, glad we fixed that. The author group has 40 pixels of padding on either side. The content has 40 pixels of padding, the image as well. So now everything is generally how it should be. And this particular card is kind of showcasing what the maximum content would be. So I think that there is a case that maybe you need to account for it going to 4 lines. That's where it just kind of depends on the content that you're using, and it's so important that you design using real content so that you can hopefully make those decisions and decide how much space you're going to need. So now all of these, spacing is basically the minimum or the maximum requirements depending on the content. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to click on the card and then create symbol. And that's going to bring up this dialog where I can name this. I'll call this the blog card. Click OK. And then now I've got this little symbol here for the symbol. And now I can click on this guy and then go to the symbols page and actually start to edit the symbol, edit the instance. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just show you some of the pinning. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to show you AutoLayout because it'll be important for us to set up those folders first. So the featured image doesn't really have any spacing needs. It's pinned to the top and the left and the right, so there's not really any need to mess with that. So I'll go ahead up here and just pin this like that. And then the featured image, I also have the height fixed just so that if you were to resize the height of the card, it wouldn't stretch. That's a minor detail, just kind of a design thing that depends on if you would ever need to change the height of the card. And then here we've got these three elements. And I want to start to create folders using Anima, and I'll show you how that works in a second. But the thing to keep in mind is that the way that this works is whenever I create a folder, or whenever I group things using AutoLayout, it's going to set a specific pixel dimension. Now I'll show you what I mean. If I were to take this folder and then create a new one, you can see what happened there. I'm going to do that again. I undo, you can see this title is going to move down a number of pixels. So I create a folder, so you can see here it says create a stacked group. Click on that, and it brings up this dialog that allows me to set a few options, but you can see here it's got this pixel dimension. Now when I change this, it's changing the spacing between everything. That's okay, but you saw earlier in the design we wanted 8 pixels on the top and 16 pixels on the bottom. So what that means is that we have to create 2 different folders. So I'm going to go ahead and just ungroup this, so you can see here this blue with the 3 dots is similar to the Anima color. So that's how you can tell that you've got a stacked group created. So I'm going to ungroup that and then regroup it again. Call it content, and then make sure we've got the right padding. So this one was 8 pixels and this one was 16. So 8 pixels here and 16 pixels here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the title and the meta, or the category here, and now I'm going to create a stacked group with just the 8 pixels between them. So grouping those, I set 8 pixels. I want it to be aligned on the left, and then I'll say this is the entry header. And the other thing to keep in mind is that I've created, or excuse me, I've set. So something like this, you might think it doesn't need to be, that wide, the bounding box. But what's important about that is just that you can pin this to the left and to the right, and then set this width so that if you have a really, really long category title, it won't wrap to 2 lines. So you'd want it to basically be what it would be in HTML and CSS and front-end code. So it would span the full length, and both of these would be the same pixel dimension. So that's something that you'd want to keep in mind as you create these. Okay, so we've got the entry header working. If I want to change the spacing between these, I can do that and it will automatically change it. But now I want the spacing between these to have 16 pixels. So here is where I would then change this, the content folder, to be 16 pixels, and it automatically detects the padding in pixels when I create it. So it's now going to convert that folder into an AutoLayout folder, and now I've got this nested folder structure. So that's a really powerful thing. You can really use that in a number of different ways. But here it's just a really simple thing where between these two, we've got 16 pixels. So now I can move it and it only changes these two. So if I want 16 pixels here, and then I can click on this guy and edit this, and you can see it's now going to move the entry content down. It's going to respect that 16 pixel dimension that we've already set up. So then lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this author to have some similar spacing. So we've got 14 pixels here. Let's change this to 16. Pull this down. So we've got this folder working correctly. And within these two elements, I want to set that 16 pixel dimension. So I'm going to come down here, click on this folder. And now you can see actually that changed. The height of this was a little bit different. So, or it was a little bit off. So when I created this, it automatically set it right in the middle. So you can see now it's got that 16 pixel. And if I wanted to change that, then I can, move it this way. Obviously, I would need to change the width of that element as well so that the padding was right, but you get the idea. Okay, a few other things to note as we look at this. You can tell here I've renamed some of these layers to be more descriptive of what the content is. So I've got blog category, title, and then excerpt, and this actually doesn't have just has the same text. So this one I might change to be entry, or we'll just say excerpt. And what that does, if I return to this instance here, is it makes it so that they have more sensible labels. So blog category, and then it gives you an example of one of those, design as the placeholder. So whatever you put as the actual value of that text item is going to be the placeholder in the input. You've got the title, the excerpt, the avatar, you can choose a new image, or the author name. Okay, so lastly, what I want to look at is just the pinning of different items and the padding. You may not be changing the width of a card, but it is a good thing to keep in mind, mostly so that you're being intentional about the spacing and everything like that. So what I want to do is make it so that these text items fill the content, fill the background of the card. And you can see here I've got 40 pixels on either side. So with this folder selected, I'm going to click on the left and on the right. And then with the author, we're going to click on the left, the bottom, and the right. And that's going to pin it, to the left, to the bottom, and to the right, and make sure that that 40 pixel padding is actually going to be respected. And then the featured image, we mentioned this earlier, but I've got that pin to the left, the top, and the right. So now when I return to this instance, I'm going to pull this up here so we can get a better look. And now at this point, when I click and drag and resize, you can see here the text is actually respecting the author is at the bottom. So you can see here's a little bit of an issue if you were to do this. You can see the author is working. It's pinned to the left and to the bottom, and presumably to the right. But this content is kind of floating here in the middle. So what you might want to do is click into here and set this content to pin to the top as well. Since this featured image has a fixed height, if you click on the actual image itself, it's got a fixed height. That would make it so that it would just pin to the top. You could also do that using AutoLayout if you were to connect the featured image and the content as well, but it's really not necessary. You can see here just pinning it to the top allows you to change the height, and the author name will automatically pin to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and reset this to the original size. I probably wouldn't change the height. It just depends on the design. If you had maybe a masonry and you had different height, then that would be a good good reason to do that. But it just depends, like I said, on the needs of the design. So now you can see here what's great about this is, yes, this is design. Let's say this is a process post, so now I change that. Let's say it's just this title called Don't Panic, and boom, the excerpt just comes up right underneath. We've got that 16 pixel padding underneath that's working because of auto layout. The excerpt length can change. Let me just grab this. At this point, it's pretty self-explanatory that you can change any of these elements, and they're going to respect the padding that we've put in place. So that's a look at how to create this symbol, and then also have it be responsive. I did want to show some of the problem. I just realized I didn't show this at the very beginning, which is basically if we were to come here and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create blog card with auto layout, and then we'll pull this off and we'll do another one that's just a boring blog card. And I'm going to group these again just using sketches groups. So, oops. I'm going to ungroup this one, ungroup this one, regroup it. Okay, so now we've got just the featured image, the content with the meta, the title, the excerpt, and the author. Now, when I take a look at these, I've got this one here. This is the regular, well, actually I think this is the auto layout one. Now if I create this guy and I were to do the exact same thing as before, process, don't panic. Ooh. Yeah, it's just not gonna work. I mean, it's pretty clear to tell you what's happening there. It just automatically keeps it in the exact same spot, doesn't respect the content, and so it makes it frustrating to try to work with flexible content, and honestly makes symbols somewhat unusable. So auto layout by Anima is a really useful tool, and when you use it inside of your symbols, it creates a super powerful tool. There's a lot more that you can do with it, and a lot of fun things that you can try, but definitely give this a shot, and let us know what you think.